From the pages of MikeHuckabee.com, home of real bombshell reporting and punditry, let's take another look back at the week that was. And by the way, you can have those bombshells dropped on your email inbox twice daily just by signing up for my absolutely free newsletter. Well, this week, you guessed it, another anti-Trump bombshell dominating another mainstream news cycle. This week, it was Bob Woodward's turn. Woodward, who used to be a journalist in the Watergate days of 45 years ago. You know that guy. Well, the controversy this time is that President Trump told Woodward he wanted to play down the coronavirus back in March because he didn't want to create a panic. That's it. That's the story. But it didn't stop Woodward from concluding, based on that perfectly reasonable remark from the President of the United States, that Trump is the wrong man for the job. You know, just something that an objective journalist might say at the end of his book. Well, here is an objective question for Woodward. Why'd you wait until September, 2 months before the election, to reveal this bombshell, especially if this disturbed you 6 months ago? But of course, we have our answer. It's a new book, which you can use to line bird cages, or for the more protest-minded among us, use it to light up a Molotov cocktail. And speaking of peaceful protesting, Jonathan S. Tobin, writing for the New York Post, concludes a devastating new op-ed this way. He says, and I quote, "In what is likely to be a close election in a deeply divided country, immersed in a culture war about a largely false charge of racism, the real threat to the process isn't a presidential spoil sport. It's a Democratic Party that is fully prepared to unleash ruin on the nation if it loses again." End quote. You can read that full column linked up at MikeHuckabee.com if you're in the mood to experience an explosion between your ears. Well, from the Twitterverse, where you can follow me at GovMikeHuckabee, comes the wild, the weird, and the unbelievable. What is worse than bullies in the schoolyard? How about a couple of grown women bullying a kid outside the DNC convention? I frankly hope these two ladies who bullied a 7-year-old boy experience a few years in prison learning things they obviously didn't learn in their privileged upbringing. Putting thugs like this in lockdown may not change them, but it might make some other 7-year-olds a little safer, and it might warn some others not to do such stupid things. And Clay Travis at Outkick Sports website was misquoted and manipulated by the Washington Compost. And when they were caught, like a kid with cake all over his face saying, "I didn't eat it." Despicable, dishonest, desperate, and disgusting is what it is. Journalism is dead, folks. Biased, partisan advocacy is alive in the newsroom now. No one from the Washington Post contacted him or apologized for the errors. And of course, we're not surprised. Well, it's time for us to give some discredit where discredit is due this week. A great big shame on you to Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan for closing a park to some 2,000 Christians who gathered to pray for the city and the destructive events taking place at night. Even though protesters and rioters were freely allowed to use another park gathering and singing and staging their actions, missionary Sean Foyt and those Christians rallied outside the park and held a worship protest. A highly educated shame on you to Los Angeles County Public Health Director Dr. Barbara Ferrer for saying she will not open K-12 schools until after the election. Even though coronavirus cases are down, deaths are in decline, and hospitalizations are under 1,000 for the first time since the pandemic started, ABC something smells political to me. And a great big international shame on you to Disney. In the credits of their newest Mulan, they give special thanks to the city of Turpan, China, Municipal Bureau of Public Security. Oh, what's wrong with that, may you ask? Well, the city of Turpan runs a concentration camp for Uyghur Muslims, where detainees are imprisoned and then forced to renounce their religion and be indoctrinated in communist ideology. Well, now for something a little more encouraging. Boy, do we need it. Here's some shout-outs to people making the world a little bit better by their actions. A big shout out to Mr. Gary Dean, who's a 69-year-old veteran who wore a face covering that depicted the American flag, to his part-time job at the Food Line located in Havelock, North Carolina. His manager told him that someone was offended by the flag image and he could no longer wear the mask at work. Gary Dean chose to resign from his job because he felt the decision went against his personal values. Well, Food Lion has amended its rules and now will allow staff members to wear the American flag without retribution. And why not? And a loving shout out to my wife Janet, who returned to her hometown of Lake Charles, Louisiana, so she could work as a volunteer with Samaritan's Purse, helping families who were devastated by recent Hurricane Laura. I say, well done, sweetheart. And I promise I'll finish my honey-do list before you get back. Maybe. And how about a great big shout out to Demetrius Snare for a very funny Twitter video calling out California state leadership for their confusing coronavirus rules. Take a look.
California right now, you can get on an airplane with 150 people and take a 1-hour flight, but you cannot go inside of a church with 150 people for an hour. If you play on a basketball team and your athletes touch the basketballs, they have to be sanitized and they can't be touched again for 10 minutes. But you can go in a grocery store and you can touch all the steaks, chicken, and fish that you want and no one ever sanitizes them. You can go to a daycare center, have 10 to 14 kids sitting in a room on computers, all distance learning together, but you can't have a classroom with 10 to 14 students sitting inside of it.
And finally, here's a closing thought from the great Mark Twain, who said, anyone who can only think of one way to spell a word obviously lacks imagination. While I never got my mom or my English teacher to amen this, you got to give the man points for creativity. Here's a reminder that my new book, 3 C's That Made America Great, Christianity, Capitalism, and the Constitution, is available right now. You can get it wherever books are sold or at HuckabeeBooks.com. Until next time, these have been the facts of the matter. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, be sure to leave a like, then subscribe, and hit the notification bell below. Now, if you didn't like it, you ought to find a Ben Shapiro video to detox you with more facts.